He was struck by the shocking realization that his arms were trapped as tightly as his legs. Floyd was buried in a tunnel that was only 16 inches high and in a wormhole over 140 feet into the earth. It was a shocking plan, but this wasn't the first time Floyd had been trapped in a cave. His first big cave he was all alone. It was Friday morning, and he wouldn't expect anyone to come looking for him. Absolutely small passage. Floyd took some breaths to relax himself and start the long process of waiting. Eventually, someone would come looking for him. He is back. Piled on his already trapped and strained. The reality made way for himself like the water away. He shook his head back and forth, and the only movement he had he screamed off the mountain. He was exhausted. His feet scraped against water, but it remained against his body. The sun had set on Friday. Now morning had come without anyone knowing that Floyd was trapped. He continued the cycles of screaming and struggling against the mountain and passing out. That and relieved Floyd called back that he needed help. Joel was squeezed through one of those breakdown areas, but stopped in but just didn't have the nerve to try to put his head through the insane opening with Floyd's voice. Serious help from the brothers. We sent Joel away to get some adults who had experience with this kind of when he was hungry and thirsty. He knew where he was. In no time. 24 hours had passed in this position. We continued to we waited to see what was going on. But he had crawled and squeezed. The hole was staring him in the face. It was just under 9 inches high. Looked at the sheet of 22 years old. It was 4 o'clock on Saturday. Only realized that ever since his brother had had food and water. Winter squeezed past the first member of the blockade and twisted through the The others had in fact turned around to him. So he was going. Floyd yelled out. It was a flat, narrow passage with a jet. It wasn't forward with its toes and scraping along its belly. There was a little lip of rock to perch above the slide down to Floyd. Homer thought entering the tiny passage was the part. He looked down to see his brother's face below. The slide was deep, but it was narrow. Floyd was trying to see something in the cave. Homer slid down to help, but found the situation shocking. Floyd was buried up to his
Oh,
but the Homer brought coffee and sausage to Floyd, and it renewed his vigor in knowing his family was here to save him. Homer moved up and down the shaft, trying to pull Floyd, move rocks to free his arm, and dig out the floor of the shaft so he could squat down to reach into Floyd's tunnel. Because no one else could squeeze through the hole in the turnaround room, Homer was on his own trying to move the earth around Floyd. Each time he pulled away a rock or some dirt, more fell from the exposed. Homer was desperate and worked on and off for the next 16 hours, climbing and sliding back down. He had spent the most uncomfortable squat and reach position to try to make a move that would improve Floyd's situation. It was 8 o'clock Sunday morning when Homer came out of the cave. He needed assistance because he could barely walk from the exertion he had put out. He collapsed and begged someone to go down to help dig his brother out. The crowd had started to build while Homer was underground. Word had spread that Floyd was really trapped this time, and the locals began to gather to see if they could help. Several men had worked their way into the cave tunnels and came to. A few were paralyzed with fear and turned back straight away. It looked like a crumbling hole of boulders with rocks just dangling over the opening. A few of the men put their lights inside the hole and looked at the distance and quality of the tight tunnel. They knew Floyd was currently trapped because of a collapse, so risking it in this hole would be foolish. There were others who were willing to try, but just could not fit in the small opening.
damn. Hasbulala nje wasimncama futhi.
Throughout the day on Sunday, the gathering crowd discussed options in and out of cave tunnels without ever passing through the small streams. The entire day Sunday, no one was able to reach Floyd to offer him water, food, or comfort. It was now 3 full days of being trapped. It was shocking to Floyd. He was grateful that food and drink were brought in, but the situation was not improved. His arm, his body was laying in a pool of cold, muddy water and jagged. His body temperature was dropping. No one else was able to reach his slide over. His food themselves past most of the stuck in the cave. Miller showed up in the store. Hundreds of people started showing up just to golf at the gathering. Ready to get a spectacle. Miller decided to twist the size of the rocky hole in the corner, barely bigger than a sheet of paper. This Miller was a wiry guy, only 117. A jumble of rocks with he was actually dropped to where Floyd was trapped. Even though he found the nerve to push through the tiny squeeze in the turnaround room, he was now faced with a new fear looking down the slide. The pit off the ledge was a narrow drop at a 30-degree angle. The shaft was narrow and flat, like a chimney. It was enough room to slide his body to the bottom, but he wouldn't be able to move his arms to look into Floyd's trap. At this point, he was going to slide down and offer Floyd some coffee while he asked his questions. Floyd's face was covered with cloth, which he promptly removed. Floyd asked them to put it back. The torture of the water droplets had been steady hitting his face for 3 days, and he couldn't take it any longer. Skeet asked his questions and quickly gave Floyd a drink before scrambling back up the shaft to the left. Skeet's move was stunned and really couldn't imagine how they would get him out. Once he was out, he rode up the story. It was hard to believe in the match for 75 hours of the captain there. Miller was sure that the many experts on site would have Floyd out in no time, so he left it to the professionals. Even the men who very few professionals were in this aspects of temperature, rock size, one tiny hole around the room. Boosted Floyd's spirit. Early Monday afternoon, and captivated by the man. With all this interest, showed up for a reasonable idea. But honestly, looking and rock by himself would take weeks. And Floyd just didn't have that kind of time. Floyd knew that there was risk that might even but it was an outcome of becoming just the third face to face with Floyd. Bending his knees or switching. He struggled to wrap the harness around his chest and shoulders. It's been some work to blocks from while Floyd. Unfortunately, the effort failed to put any real tension on the foot that was trapped. But February 2nd, another plan had ended in failure. It seemed impossible that despite all the commotion, effort, and collective expertise up top, not a shred of progress had been made to free Floyd. But that was about to change. At 9 o'clock that night, Floyd's longtime friend Johnny Gerald arrived, sure that Floyd would get out, because he always had. Just a year earlier, Johnny had helped rescue him from Crystal Cave, where he spent 2 days underground. Johnny was an experienced diver, so when Floyd heard that his old friend was here, he immediately yelled out in relief that Johnny would be able to get him out. Like those before him, Johnny moved through the tunnels of the cave. He saw the hole in front of him and felt a twinge of nerves. Floyd was a lot smaller than he was. Johnny had always been a bit stocky, but his strength could usually make up for what he lacked in height. In this case, physical strength was no real advantage, but his mental strength was essential. He jammed his body through the tiny hole, dislodging some small rocks as he moved through. The silty dusting that fell all around him was frightening. He belly crawled to the ledge and looked at his old friend at the bottom of the narrow shaft. He was reinvigorated with hope that he might just make it out of this hole, with his foot intact. Johnny tried to slide his body down feet first, but was wedged in the narrow shaft. He adjusted and pushed, but was afraid of getting stuck before helping Floyd at all. It was clear that he just would not fit. For most people, they would accept that they had honestly tried, but the rescue would have to be left to others. But not Johnny. He could hear the desperation in Floyd's voice, and just could not bear to leave. Johnny spent the next 3 hours chipping away rock in the narrow shaft. He chiseled at areas that pinched in together, carefully catching the chips to prevent hitting Floyd down below. By midnight, Johnny was tired, but ready to try again. This time, he was able to slide down the shaft and reach Floyd in the narrow tunnel below. For the next 6 hours, Johnny put his muscle to good use. He filled buckets with rocks and gravel that had buried Floyd's chest. Each effort required him to press his head in an awkward angle to reach his arms into Floyd's tunnel. He pulled and scraped and filled the buckets. They were hauled up and dumped so he could make some room to free Floyd's arms and hopefully get that rock off of his foot. After a grueling 6 hours of squatting and bending, straining every muscle, Johnny had gone as far as he could go. His stocky frame could not reach any farther than Floyd's upper thigh area. It was now early Tuesday morning, and Johnny headed back up to rest for a short time. After Johnny had gone up, Floyd laid alone in his narrow tunnel for the next 12 hours, and it was especially tough. It seemed like so much progress had been made, but the ultimate problem still existed. No matter how hard he pulled or twisted, there was no moving his foot. He was cold and truly afraid. He was lying in a pool of muddy water that was 50 degrees, and the blankets they brought in didn't stop the chill in his bones. Floyd had been stuck for more than 4 full days and hadn't seen the sun since early Friday morning. He was feeling strange and starting to hallucinate about angels and sleeping in his own bed. The time creeped by slowly, and he wondered when someone would be back to help him. And so, he waited. Skeets Miller had continued to file reports on what was happening with Floyd's entrapment, but checked in on Tuesday afternoon to discover that he was still in the same spot, and no plans had come together to get his foot free. The overwhelming problem continued to be that no one was willing to squeeze through the impossible hole that separated Floyd from all the experts. Miller was moved. He realized that he was among a select few who were able to reach Floyd, so he gathered all the cave workers he could and decided to continue with Johnny's work since he was much smaller. At 5:30 on Tuesday evening, he returned to the narrow shaft and used a bucket to continue removing the loose rocks and gravel around Floyd's legs. He had to squeeze into the tunnel with Floyd and press his body to the side for each small handful of rocky earth. Skeets was steadily clearing bucket after bucket until he could get a better look at the offending rock. As this day progressed, some workers had strung a set of lights through the tunnel to reach down to the shaft area. This extra lighting revealed what had not been understood until now. The rock wasn't just heavy and pressing on Floyd's foot, it had slipped down into the crack of the cavern below. This created a wedge which trapped the rock so tightly that neither pushing nor pulling would move it. After a close inspection, Miller went up to talk with the gathered experts. Of all the supplies they had, the only thing that could possibly fit into the tiny hole was a crowbar and a small jack. It wasn't ideal, but it would have to do. Skeets was running purely on adrenaline now, and felt a surge of hope that Floyd might be free in just a few hours. He settled back into his awkward perch in the bottom of the shaft. The jack and crowbar were slowly pushed into the end of the tunnel near Floyd's feet. Miller couldn't reach that far, but he pushed with the tips of his fingers to slide the jack in place. He slowly turned the arm to try to raise the platform to the rock's edge. It was painstaking work leaning forward and reaching out with the tips of your fingers. His back spasmed, and he fought every piercing cramp while trying to make it work. It wouldn't reach, so he moved it again, and then a third time, each effort requiring a contortion of his body to barely make a move left or right. He collapsed and heaved with exhaustion. The quiet, calming words of Floyd burned in his mind. Gently, Floyd encouraged, "You can do it, fella. I believe in you, fella." Miller could not give up on this man. He called for some wooden blocks and went through a series of positioning and repositioning, trying to lift the rock even a tiny bit. At one point, the jack had a nice grip on the rock's edge, and each tiny quarter turn was holding. Skeets turned a little and held it, then turned some more, sensing that the rock was actually starting to lift. Then, the whole contraption collapsed with a quiet clank. He tried again, and again, each time making some small adjustment, but never making any progress on moving the rock. At 1 a.m., after 8 long hours of trying, he collapsed with exhaustion. Both mentally and physically, he was completely beat. He wrapped the last light bulb in the string around Floyd's neck for warmth and retreated to the surface. He just wanted to cry from exhaustion, anger, and pity. It was now the start of a new day, Wednesday, February 4th. Some men from the Kentucky Rock and Asphalt Company went in to take a look at the stability of the tunnels. Their work to shore up the front section of the cave really helped open up the pathways and make it passable for most of the rescuers' attempts. The problem was that as you climbed deeper into the cave, the walls and ceiling were sagging and bulging, starting to literally close in on the pathway. Workers in the turnaround room were trying to figure out if they could widen the tiny hole, when a frightening rumble was heard from within. The workers informed the team of the devastating news that there had been a cave-in. The entire tunnel was unstable, and anyone going inside would be risking their own life. Johnny Gerald again stood up and offered to go inside. He slowly moved through the tight passages and listened for any additional rock falls. He got to the area of the cave-in and did what only Johnny could do. He got to work moving the rocks. It seemed like a hopeless task, with obstacle after obstacle. One rock at a time was cautiously pulled away, careful not to disturb the rocky gravel perched just above his own head. This effort took more than 8 hours, hunching and laying, trying to reach his arms in a painfully exhausting overhead reach. Just when he didn't think he could move anymore, he was able to secure a small opening that revealed the light still glowing inside. Floyd was still communicating, though he seemed to be fading after nearly 6 days of being trapped. Johnny knew that he would have to get a wild burst of adrenaline to pull these final rocks away, and then make an attempt to save his friend. It was 10:30 at night now, and finally the path was open once again. Johnny went out to collect tools to chisel away at the rock on Floyd's foot. He gathered the men, who would be part of the bucket brigade, to move the final rocks and gravel from around Floyd's legs. They were full of confidence that this would somehow be the successful effort to get Floyd out alive. They crawled through to the turnaround room and were stunned by what they saw. The ceiling had poured into the narrow passage leading down to Floyd. The cave-in was bigger and heavier than before, with the only path now being swamped in a sea of rocks, gravel, mud, and debris. The melting snow had swelled the walls and ceiling, and the weight just couldn't be held back. Johnny yelled out to Floyd, and he returned the call with a yell of his own. He was alive, and Johnny could not just leave him there. The walls seemed to be heaving and breathing, ready to suffocate him at any moment. The other men backed out of this area, back to the reinforced entrance. Johnny was alone, digging in the pile of dirt, ragged and desperate to have something go his way. It was sickening. If he turned and left, he would essentially be abandoning his friend's only chance at rescue. He scooped out the new debris in the hole, and it just refilled from an endless source above him. Larger rocks started tumbling down the mound, and Johnny was suffering. He filled his bucket and heard new rumblings. More silted rain came down on his head, face, and back. It was truly a death trap. Johnny resigned himself to the hardest decision of his life, but he had a family of his own. He retreated to the entrance, while new piles of gravel and rock accumulated in the path. He sat down and cried. He was done. It was now clear that although Floyd was still alive inside the tight tunnel, climbing in to rescue him would not be survivable. The governor brought in the National Guard, and the state finally took control of the rescue effort, with a plan to dig a hole straight down to Floyd's location. This would give them a chance to excavate around him and bring him up to the surface through a reinforced shaft. On Thursday, February 5th, the 7th day of his entrapment, digging began. They were quite optimistic, expecting to reach Floyd within 30 hours. They needed to dig a shaft down 55 feet, then dig laterally to reach the narrow passage leading to Floyd. The enthusiasm waned as hours turned into days, and progress slowed to a crawl. There were problems with equipment, collapses, hard soil, heavy rains, and personnel disputes. This 30-hour dig stretched over the next 12 days. Yes, 12 full days of digging. During this time, there were news stories and radio serials about Floyd. There was a military inquest to see what went wrong in the initial rescue effort. There were professionals coming and going with dozens of ideas on how to get to Floyd faster. As they got closer and closer, it was thought that they heard coughing deep in the shaft, keeping hopes alive that Floyd may still be living. He had a trickle of water, so it was possible for him to survive. The light bulb that had been hung around his neck was being monitored for changes in the electrical pulse. It was thought that there was some interference with the electricity each time Floyd breathed. For days, they were monitoring the scratchy interference, coming through nearly 20 times a minute. This bulb Floyd a bit warmer as well. On Friday, February 13th, the bulb that had been keeping Floyd warm burnt out. There was no more signal on the line of any kind. It was 2 full weeks that Floyd had been trapped and suffering, an astonishing amount of time under such a mental and physical nightmare. The shaft diggers continued on until Monday, February 16th, when they finally broke through the tunnel and entered the cave shaft. The first man through the tunnel was only a few feet from Floyd. It was quickly determined that Floyd was dead. The coroner came down and formally made a determination of death. He stated that Floyd had lived for around 14 days trapped in the tunnel. He appeared to have only been dead for 3 days. It was stunning. After the final cave-in, Floyd had just laid alone in the cave, with only a trickle of water and the use of one arm, for 9 days, before he died. Floyd was an eager and talented cave explorer, in a time when it would have meant everything to his family if he could discover a touring cave. He dedicated 12 hours a day, for weeks, trying to find that one special place he could commercialize. In the end, he found exactly what he was looking for, because Sand Cave became a household name, along with Floyd Collins. The nation mourned his death and was petrified by the way it lingered on in a painful and drawn-out manner. The passion of his family, friends, and even strangers to help Floyd escape was truly palpable. Their heroic efforts in climbing down into a nightmarish squeeze of rocks and earth should be remembered along with Floyd's life and passion. Floyd's body was moved to his family farm a few months later and buried near his own crystal cave. Later, when the cave was acquired by the National Park Service, he was interred in the Mammoth Cave Baptist Cemetery.
Damn, Floyd. What's cool, man?
In the sense of a cover-up, you nail it. You hit technical application here really well. You apply the ink to the skin in a way that gets rid of the underlying tattoo. That real deep, rich black that you get down there puts so much depth into the tattoo. And when you have those leads, you can balance those kind of things. Initially, somebody can go, oh, there's the cover-up.
Very beautiful, and technically, it is pretty perfect. Morning, everybody. You have 6 hours to complete the tattoo. The judges will be looking at this. This is someone so what you're trying to do is work with what's there and make something brand new for the person.
It's a good choice for a cover because it's lighter. There's no old dark outlines on it.
All right. Are you happy with it? Yeah. It looks awesome. Awesome.
Then you go to koi fish.
I've always wanted one, it just never happened. You know, I do realistic type stuff. Koi fish, it's right now is to get it done in Saturday, you know. Send the clients to make them comfortable and feel easy throughout. So much.
It was definitely tricky. And even in the parts where the corner you might show a little bit, you put stuff going on there. You got tattoos clean. Tattoos cover works. Yeah.
Hopefully, commend us a little bit for putting in a good effort. Not getting eliminated yet.
Right over top.
We're testing your ingenuity. A cover-up. Hours. Starts now.
The tattoo being able to reflect evenly, so it's not so obvious where the cover up is.
Show what I got. My canvas. Maybe a little better. Here. Not only did I do that, but I also created one. I had this one. I had a cover up. We're testing ingenuity. Sarah. Not necessarily have a specific design in mind.
He really liked my paintings, so that was the first thing I kind of focused on.
Realistic and the detail.
I gave something badass.
You really stepped up to the plate of this challenge and went yard. You totally blew our mind and made an idea 10 times better.
I was happy.
Anything else? That's the person who's gonna cash the check. Is the person that can do anything that walks into the shop. You're going to have to show other stuff.
The judges have decided that the best tattoo of the day.
Dog, as in, naman, yo, putika tiga ka
Biggest baddest tattoo of the day. Thank you.
Today you must cover up prison tattoo. Tattoo, your time begins now. Get it home.
Do it, man. Tattoo Baby is doing a nice tattoo, other than the fact that the finger is not attached to the hand and it has arthritis.
She spent a whole season hearing that the fingers are one of the most important things. Don't f them up. She should know better.
This week, we tested your flexibility by asking you to cover prison tattoos. Greg.
My client wanted a badass eagle man. What happens in this tattoo for me is that it's flat. These colors aren't popping as hard as they could because there's no black. Had you put black, it would look that much more dynamic. You have the ability to do a really tough looking tattoo, and you obviously can draw. You have a winning combination. You got to put it to practice.
Jimmy. Were you happy with your cover up?
Part of the challenge is being flexible. But what I had to do, I think I did good.
You did achieve the cover up. The white, that was the thing that threw me for a loop. To pump this much white in time, this will turn into almost a keloid looking result.
I tried to get rid of all that heavy black area because I didn't want it to look like a giant 8-ball.
A year down the road, it will not have the same brilliance it has today. People need to understand that that's not what they're going to have for the rest of their life.
Tattoo Baby.
You got a lot to live up to in this competition, but you're going to give a lot of people a hard time. So let the battle begin.
The judges have decided that the best tattoo of the day.
Tattoo Baby.
Goes to Tattoo Baby.
Even with the misanatomy of the hand, you did a very beautiful tattoo. Smooth shading, nice color, really good job.
Thank you.
You have 6 hours to show adaptability with a cover-up. Your time begins now.
Do this.
Oh, okay.
Right.
There you go.
You know, when I saw that sketch, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's the type of effect you want to make. My goal today is definitely to outperform Scott and Maddie.
Yeah, bun.
Now, when the competition's getting tough, that's when I plan on shining. I'm going to stomp this tattoo. Explain it.
Okay. Sounds good. $100,000 tattoo right here.
Hell yeah.
That's it. Wow. That's badass, dude.
Oh my God. Badass or what? That is awesome.
Today, you had to show adaptability by transforming tattoos that your canvases regret into tattoos they can wear proudly. Based on your work, 2 artists will be closing shop. Halo.
As far as the cover-up goes, we had it easy. But this tattoo has such solid saturation over a big area of skin, and whether it's a cover-up or not, this is a great tattoo.
You did a great job applying this. This is soft tissue. It can get overworked. It can look beat up. Yours looks healed.
Scott.
It was one of the bigger tattoos to cover up. I think you approached it the right way with a hot tone away from where the cover-up is. If I looked at this tattoo, I wouldn't even think it was a cover-up.
People can shake their heads or do whatever they want behind you, but the tattoo is damn good, and a lot of people that are shaking their heads aren't.
Before we send you back to the loft, the judges have determined a winner. Scott and Halo. You have the top 2 tattoos of the day. The judges have decided the best tattoo of the day
For the head.
goes to Halo.
Halo, the saturation you used in this tattoo, the way you pulled off the solid field of blue, very nice. You did a great job.
Congratulations, Halo. All right, artists, you have 6 hours to do your tattoos. This is your last chance to prove that you deserve a spot in the live finale. Your time begins now.
The biggest thing is going to be working with the existing piece that you have, trying to turn that circle into a real circle. I'm going to retouch this tattoo instead of covering it up, and then tattoo landmarks from around the world as a collage around his arm. Time permitting, if Berlin works, then we'll do Central America. Is that all right with you?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can nail every single skill in this one piece. All right, are you ready? I'm here to win, and somebody else is going to go home because that spot in the finale is mine.
I can already see it.
Ito yung ako na very good. Abanye bayabuya ne?
That would be pretty sweet.
Abanye bayabuya food. Kibazo ito yung challenge.
Cut and pasted to me. There's no way that Sausage's tattoo is going to beat my tattoo today. It would be a tattoo that didn't hurt like
Nito abanye bayabuya food. Kibazo ito yung challenge.
this whole time. I got to just
So yun yung
doing
sausage
what I'm
head.
doing. When I'm done with this tattoo, you're not going to tell it's a cover-up, and it's going to be screaming
Nito
Scott
like,
Marshall all over.
I need to go competition na nalayan sa matatu.
I'm doing something bold by putting a lot of bright
May
canary
pili
yellow
dito
into this
namin.
piece.
Kung
and really
nabuya
push it
niya
over the
po.
top.
Yes, obvious.
Have you seen Scott's tattoos? Scott, you can still see the cover up right through it. No. Using yellow as a cover up is a huge no-no because you can still see the old piece underneath it. This might be enough to send his ass home.
Yeah.
Take a look.
Wow.
Oh, it is amazing.
Artists, this was your last chance to prove that you deserve to compete in the live finale for $100,000, a feature in Inked magazine, and the title of Ink Master. Sausage, you reworked Melissa's tattoo.
To try to do a cover up and help him kind of flash and make sense. So I decided to add something that's a lot more bold and stylish to the airplane itself, and then build a sleeve that he can add on to at any time. This is actually going to be very hard for people to work off because the quality is really high. This is showing versatility. To come out here and show, I just did these big bright flowers. Now I'm going to do this really fine line detail and really show some nice soft black and gray. Is top notch.
Scott.
Overall, the palette is strong, really solid, clean application. It has your signature all over it.
Up close, you can definitely see the nautical star ghost outline through there. If this could have been moved over just a little bit to keep that out of that yellow lip, that would have been better.
No matter where I moved it, it was poking out here and poking out there, so.
But you know yellow's not covering it.
The judges have decided that the
Nabiyin siya
best
ba
tattoo of the
kayo
day goes to Sausage.
Nice, dude. He showed a lot of ingenuity in putting his design together and really thinking outside the box instead of just doing a big cover-up.
You've earned your spot in the live finale.
Wow, thank you.
Congratulations, man. You deserve it.
All right, guys, you have 6 hours to help your canvases make a fresh start by covering up a tattoo. And your time starts now.
Take it fast and go.
Today, these artists are going to be covering up hate tattoos. They really have to put everything aside and do the best cover-up they possibly can. What's going on with the storyline now?
I was just brainwashed when I was younger. And when I got older and had kids, I realized, man, what the hell? I'm trying to do a 360.
I'd love to help, man.
I appreciate that.
Ingenuity is always going to play into the cover-up. You should never be able to pick out a section where you know the cover-up is. That's the biggest fail.
Oh, maraming nabantuan.
Right there.
The canvas I gave myself was probably one of the hardest cover-ups in there because it's so big. But I know that I can cover anything with flowers.
I do flowers all the time, so it wasn't really far stretch.
I've designed all the petals to curl in right around that circular shaped part of the anarchy symbol. I can kind of keep all my darks on the tips. I can use the shadows that are already there. Really nice tattoo. Let's get this over with and then we get to the damn finale.
I'm trying to get rid of about 20 years. When I first got the tattoo, I was like 13, 14 years old. Like an idiot starting Harry and Brotherhood. That's not what I want to be. It doesn't matter if you're red, black, brown, yellow, green, whatever.
Unfortunately, I've been a victim of hate. When I was wanting to get an apprenticeship to learn how to tattoo, I was told that the color of my skin was going to hinder my chances. To be a minority, it's actually driving me even more to do a killer job.
So how'd you get rid of the swastika?
I put a little chainer in the very pass, so it was perfect.
Can't wait for all the stress to come off my shoulders.
To be able to help this guy change his life is a complete honor.
Ain't nobody gonna meet this one.
I know how it's done.
Today, you had to show ingenuity by covering a hate tattoo. James, you're up first. You chose a pretty large cover-up for yourself.
First thing I saw was a floral pattern that would fit her and just get rid of that huge tattoo without being really dark.
You've given this woman something very feminine, something very beautiful. Of the day, this woman's life has been transformed more dramatically than anybody else, and she has you to thank for it.
There are some lines that are less than perfect in here, especially in these top flowers on the outside. There's some areas where you've just packed white all the way up to those lines, and the lines that are crooked and the lines that are shaky, it makes them really stand out. But something like this, with this much detail, close inspection, you're going to find a lot of discrepancies.
Feeling confident about putting this many lines into this type of skin in this area, knowing that you're up against 6 hours, was a ballsy move. This panned out for you in that sense. You definitely achieved the cover-up. The shading that you have going from dark to light, you disperse it throughout. And that way, it's not an obvious cover-up. It's a strong tattoo, and it's a lot of tattooing in a short amount of time. You have so many nice details in the hair. You have really fine lines. You create this kind of ratty feeling, but it still shows perfect line work in there. This thing really shows strong today. You did a great job.
Judges have decided that the best tattoo of the day goes Today, you must cover a tattoo in a spot that is often a source of embarrassment. A tramp stamp.
I knew that damn tramp stamp fad would come back and fight me in the ass.
Tramp stamps became a fad because their designs were typically small and their placement was easy to hide. However, the placement of the tramp stamp in the extreme lower back makes it a serious challenge.
If an artist doesn't have a technical application, there's no point in tattooing because we're just going to put them through unnecessary amounts of pain and see the tattoo underneath anyway. Good. I came into this competition needing to prove exactly who I am, and with every I get more comfortable.
Tattoo. This strategy is definitely not going to work today.
Black that you get down there. Put so much depth into. Oh, there's so the color palette is very nice. It's laid out very well, but when you look to make pretty tattoos, and then that's what I had. This was the most responsible would have been a really, really hard one to cover. It's 100% the right move to give this to the best tattoo. You tell me design and my tattoo, and the quality and the technical application, which made it out.
And your time starts.
Sweet. Today. And then proportionately, the wings are going to have to be able to make. I'm taking a huge risk right now, and if it doesn't pay off,
Jason.
Tattoo to try to cover up directional shading. Same thing. So, really clean sticker tattoo for me as far as it's serving for a cover up. It definitely does its job. As impressive as the tattoo is, I've seen it a bunch of times.
Ya mi mamá ponía ropa, ¿no? Ngokuthi listana esenye Shanghai. Wonke iteam yami iyalaphaya ukuthi fanele siqoqeke sakemuva
Each of you is coming into this competition with
ngindlela
either your
ekugcinile.
master or your former apprentice.
You want to beat the person who taught you. You want to take everything that they taught you and surpass it.
What are we doing? Well, new school, of course. To rock out of the tattoo. Safest bet. My relationship with Earl is we push each other too. I like doing new school, traditional, and realism, smashing them together because it can make something different. And right now on color. Color master, what do you expect? I'm mostly known for surrealism. I love everything that's strange, and then it's just more fun to me. I took Dave from a good artist to an amazing artist. I've created a monster, and he's my competition. He like taking candy from a baby. Cool skull. What's the outline doing? A new school black and gray. I'm back to prove anyone that has any doubts about my black and gray totally wrong. If you can't do black and gray, you can't be English. It's your Achilles heel.
You do not have what it takes to be Ink Master.
My skull versus your skull. Black and gray.
We're battling right now, bro. Tattoo battles.
When I first met Chris, I was working at some whole shop in Boca. He was just like, come under my wing so I could teach you how to tattoo better. I do mostly new traditional, some realism. Chris does color portraits, and that's all he does all day back home. So that totally gives me an advantage over him.
Got all the masses.
My ass is in gear. The style of tattoos that I'm known for is realism with a lot of color saturation. I used to work in my shop, and I had to let him go. He's still just a little kid inside. He's not focused on tattooing, then he's just wild and crazy Tyler. Being a Marine, I demand discipline out of my guys. Head to head, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to be Tyler in every tattoo.
It came down to physical battle. Chris would kick my ass.
So what challenge ni master yakho umuntu ofundisile?
Yeah.
Really gorgeous. Katie and I are working as a team. We constantly try to help each other out. That's what we're doing. That I do lots of illustrative work. I do realism. I do them all very well. You don't want to employ people that aren't good enough to tattoo you. So I got a really rad Katie tattoo.
My specialty would be full traditional inspired tattoos. It's not a matter of beating my master, it's a matter of winning the competition. A female tattooer needs to own this and win it, and I'm that one. It is out of control how awesome your tattoo is.
For your first tattoo, you're being judged on overall ability. Each of you went head to head with your master or apprentice. One of you will win and one of you will lose. This is a blind critique. The judges have no idea who tattooed which tattoo. Miami and Craig, let's start with you. New school black and gray. Let's talk about tattoo number one.
Looking at this tattoo overall, there's a lot of heavy, clean lines, a lot of smooth gray shading. I like the way that whoever did this was able to pull off some different sized lines. Overall, aesthetically, it's cool, it's strong, it's bold.
Let's move on to tattoo number two.
This tattoo is very big, very striking. But once you get into it and look real close, it's pretty rough. The black shading that comes off the it's just like that background. Pay attention to.
Let's debate a win here.
Based on everything from line work to shading to solid black, I'd go with number one.
I'd have to go with number one as well.
Unanimous, number one.
Who did number one? I did. Craig. And here you've come back, first tattoo out the gate, black and gray, beat the master. Matt and Katie. Neo-traditional burning flower. Let's start with tattoo number one.
The black's really strong, the outline looks great, the color palette really works for this design.
Let's look at tattoo number two.
I like the overall layout, big tough claws. It's a big tattoo. If it wasn't this big, could have got a little more detailed out, and the owl itself could have been stronger.
Let's debate a win here.
How strong and vivid number one looks, I'm going with number one.
I'm gonna go with number one as well.
Number one.
Who did tattoo number one?
I did.
Well done. Earl and Dave. New school, stylized realism. Tattoo number one.
This tattoo has very, very clean line work and very, very smooth shading. But as far as designing it, I don't like the shape of the skull. No real big wow factor to this tattoo.
Tattoo number two.
This tattoo is very, very messy. All the wall, color on top of color. You have the brown focal point of the skull, but then your eyes just go crazy trying to make any sense of what's going on.
All right, guys, who has the win?
simply based on application, I would say number one.
In terms of readability and cleanliness, I have to go with number one. Apprentice Dave just won. How does that feel?
Good and good at the same time. Actually, a lot of the color theory that's making me known, I learned from him.
Chris and Tyler, traditional and realism. Let's start with tattoo number one.
There's no consistent two lines side by side. The lines are so thick and thin and so erratic, but with a very weak outline in comparison to the very heavy rose outline on the outside of the rose. There has to be some kind of cohesiveness.
Sam de sus llamas
Tattoo number two.
And this tattoo stands out. It's very sharp. The outline's very deliberate, very crisp. Black in the background, bringing forward the color, really helps out. The shading of the skull is nice, smooth blend. The cleanliness of the outline on tattoo number two is so much stronger than tattoo number one. I gotta go with tattoo number two as well.
That's you, Tyler?
Yep.
And you are the apprentice.
Yes, sir.
Chris, how you feel about this?
It's all right. Give him the win on the line work. That's what you want.
There's so many boys, 4 months to prepare ourselves. Practice, practice, practice. I want to be the greatest in the world.
This week, you had one more chance to battle your master or apprentice head-to-head to prove which of you is the best. One of you will win and one of you will lose. Lose, and you could be eliminated. Miami, you went head-to-head with Craig.
I don't like it. This is basically new school. The horseshoe's rounded, it's balloony, it's cartoony, packed, wall to wall, solid color. There's really no contrast. 10, 11 feet back, I don't know if I can tell what this was.
Craig.
You did a cute new school tattoo, but it's wrong. Baby blue, neon green, it's insane.
I'm a new school tattoo artist. It's a fight. Your brain wants to do wall-to-wall color.
All right, judges, let's debate a win between Miami and Craig.
I got problems with both these tattoos, but they're the same problem.
I'm going with Craig.
Keyword today is legibility. My vote is for Craig.
Me too.
Craig, you have won the head-to-head competition. Earl, you went head-to-head with Dave. I don't understand what's happening with the snake. There's no belly, there's no belly scales, there's no teeth.
I totally did not put teeth in it.
I think it's pretty up. They obviously have belly scales, and if you're gonna turn and twist, at some point you're gonna see the belly scale.
You look shook. And this one got you.
Dave.
Aesthetically, I wish you would have put a little more time into this drawing to make it more interesting. Your whip shading, where you take the black and pepper it out into nothing. Looks strong. It's some of the strongest whip shading we've seen. Very much on point.
Yeah. There's really not much debate for me on this one at all.
It's a rattlesnake. Ain't got no teeth, man.
Y'all like beating a dead horse, man.
You're like beating a dead
There's a
horse.
lesson that needs to be told, and then move on. Well, let me explain one thing to you. What lesson that needs to be told? A dead horse, man. Give him the lesson that needs to be told, and then move on. Well, let me explain one thing to you. What you just got 30 seconds of, this is what it was for us as apprentices. I got slapped out of the chair. I got called everything under the sun. I wouldn't change the way I grew up for anything. It's my friend here. He gave me lessons that I needed to evolve, and it's tough seeing somebody that you care about getting bashed like that.
I'm going with Dave.
Dave.
You'll have 6 hours to create a stained glass tattoo.
Tama
Based
kayo
on
nung
your
ga.
work, one of you will close shop. Good luck.
Yeah, I like that, right?
With stained glass tattoos, strong black outlines are going to be a 100% necessity and will add to the contrast.
Because it's stained glass, it's more geometric.
If these artists don't depict the proper contrast, it just feels more like color by numbers.
You good at color tattoos?
Yes, sir.
I do like how you're doing that. That's crazy.
You want to cross, right?
I'm just wondering what kind of colors.
If you don't want color, bro, we could just do black lines and then do some light shade.
Yeah, I'm definitely down with that.
Bright colors just don't stand out in dark skin, so I'm gonna give them a black and gray tattoo. That's what I specialize in. I think that would be pretty cool, man.
You got your cross? Do that thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a black and gray tattoo.
Really? Has to do with color.
There is black and gray stained glass.
You gotta think about the challenge. Big C's, you're shooting yourself in the head if you think that you're gonna get away with doing a black and gray tattoo.
I'd rather just play it safe and just do the black and gray and see what happens.
Pues yo salí skin en su mundo.
I saw Miami was
In jail.
It started with my mom passing away. It was a real bad time. I did the drugs and the drinking and all that stuff to get my mind off of my mom. But I took a negative and made it a positive. I came out of there sober, a different person. I screwed, dude.
Your tattoos kind of began with Miami mentored me. It's almost like you're being adopted by a father. And Miami will always be held in regard as that person who taught me how to tattoo. I'm definitely worried about Miami with his tattoo. You like that?
Wow, dope. Damn, man, I think they well off center. You know, I'm in your corner right now. We're not going head to head. I want you to prevail, but it seems like you're making all the odds against you. Come on, Steve, baby.
Today, you had to use contrast to make vibrant, stained glass tattoos. Each of you tattooed head-to-head with another artist, and we will directly compare your work. Craig, start with you. You went head-to-head with Big C's. I love the brickwork around this thing, and I love all the intricate little shapes that you have in these rays.
The hot and cold color palette hits the mark of the contrast. I know you're a heavy color guy. These pastel colors, ramp them up. The power that gets lost is just the color palette.
Big C's.
Keep going.
Introducing the starter plan for Beats Bar. Back.
You went black and gray here.
I went black and gray because trying to do contrast with dark skin is pretty hard.
If I was going to have to do something with contrast, I would try to show depth. You didn't do that. So when I came to your room and saw the tattoo in person, I was like, man, that thing don't look straight. This thing is off by more than an inch.
I mean, I thought it looked pretty good.
Greg's tattoo is definitely contrast. Stained glass window. Great.
Winner of the head-to-head challenge is Craig. Congratulations. You have 6 hours to create an illusion. Your time begins now.
Let's do it.
I'm going to go ahead and put the stencil on you. In order to achieve an optical illusion tattoo properly, you're going to really have to know the anatomy and dynamics of the image that you're tattooing and the body part that you're placing it on.
Dude, that's perfect on the first try.
If you're not a genius doing these tattoos, you will not succeed.
Everybody's gonna make the show.
There's not much elements besides the scales on her face that are gonna make her look like a mermaid.
I just know my paint's on eyes, and I just want you to be able to have a finished piece.
Whether I do a hand or a hand with a shell on it, it's gonna be about the same amount of time. I have to show ingenuity with this tattoo. If I start taking details out, it might make no sense. I'm going head to head with my mentor, Cruzman. I really just need to win an elimination challenge.
Hi, guys.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
My final tattoo before I go home, Steve. I feel like I can't win for nothing, man. I'm just getting screwed left and right. I have too much integrity to give this lady a headless pin-up on the back of her head. I'm not going to do it. Sometimes you can't be bought. This is the type of challenge that's making me want to throw in the towel.
Ow, 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 ow. Hold on. Please, hold on.
My canvas is being sissy, making me stop every 2 seconds.
Ow. Hold on.
Towards the end is the worst part. Made this part, doing really good. All I can do is try to coach her down a little bit to keep her from tapping out on me. Yeah. Powerful. Bear with me. I really need to win against Earl. That will prove that I deserve to be here.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it.
Sweet.
Cruzman might just go to the bottom with this tattoo. He did not try to use her hair for the illusion at all. I expected way more out of him.
Today, you had to use ingenuity to come up with a clever way to transform your canvas's body part. Each of you tattooed head-to-head with another artist. One of you will win, and one of you will lose. Marissa, you went head-to-head with Earl.
For this idea, fitting in the armpit, I do commend you on hitting a lot of these lines, and they're really clean in this very tender part of the body.
You've taken some pretty heavy beatings up here, and this is not one of those days. Oddly enough, this is probably my favorite tattoo I've seen you do.
Earl.
This thing is ugly, bro. This was a living
That's it.
By 10 minutes in, he was crying.
This tattoo is riddled with weird choices. On the side of the nose, there's those 2 divots that almost look like that maybe where his eyes would be.
That's officially off the picture.
Just because your reference was a real photo doesn't mean that the tattoo is real looking. You made this look like his eyes are on his upper lip. It's crazy.
Between Marissa and Earl.
It's obviously Marissa.
I gotta go with Marissa too.
Marissa.
Winner of the head-to-head challenge is Marissa. Duffy, you went head-to-head with Cruz. As far as placement goes, you certainly used your hairline to create hair, and you hit the challenge there.
I don't like this one. Her eyes are incredibly far apart. That line that you put off of the lip really pushes her out to have a duckbill. This is definitely my least favorite tattoo I've seen you do.
I didn't think it was that bro.
Cruzman, what was your plan of attack here?
She wanted a pinup girl in the back of her neck with her hair becoming the pinup girl's hair, and I just think that that's a ridiculous idea. I abandoned ship. I wish I would have got a Buddha that I could just line up the belly button. Or...
This is easy. To have the back of the neck, no problem.
And I definitely tried.
I don't think you did abandon the challenge, and I expect everything else in the tattoo to be perfect. And there's a lot of flaws in the tattoo. The black shading from underneath her chin where the earring is kind of weird. The little outline of her lip is a little bit wonky.
Could it have been cleaner? Absolutely. Touching it on the back of her neck.
If you're playing it, play it, or make it easier on everybody, and throw in the towel.
That's a lot more trouble than I thought.
Out of respect for everybody standing here who did the challenge, you gotta give it to Duffy. Winner of the head-to-head challenge is Duffy. You'll have 6 hours to create an anatomical heart morph tattoo. Based on your work, one of you will close shop. Good luck.
You want it on your rib?
Yes.
I have to move the placement. If you've never sat through a rib tattoo before, it's definitely risky. They think that they're giving me a hard canvas. Little do they know that I'm the canvas whisperer. This guy thinks he's getting a tattoo on his rib. No, he's not. Are you going to change this spot at all?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. I told you so. What do you think? Thank you.
Most of the road.
I'm also gonna fix that little shape right there.
I'm totally not worried about Katie. She's totally comfortable. Make sure that those lines are perfect.
Yeah.
Chris obviously sees us as a threat, but Chris can suck my
Stay super still.
Blending two images takes really strong artistry, and this is one of those challenges where if the drawing doesn't look good, the tattoo damn sure won't. We're literally at the halfway point. We started with 18, we're now at 9. All right, ready? This is where the battle actually starts. Now, any tattoo these guys do, they either keep them or send them home. You guys truck along pretty good.
Yeah.
Chris is using Eric and Tyler to try to gun for Katie, and she's going to show him what's up.
Tattoo's looking awesome. So fun. Instead of just mashing the heart and the clock together, my goal is to make it look like the clock and heart pieces are made out of each other. I've gone head to head with Eric once and I lost. This is my chance to prove I'm a better artist than him. And Tyler has been doing boring tattoos, so I have to prove that I'm here to stay.
Because we're super clean. Is that the design?
I love it. I'm super excited.
Today, you had to create anatomical heart morph tattoos that show your artistry. Each of you tattooed against 2 other artists, and we will directly compare your work. One of you will win, and 2 of you will lose. Eric, you tattooed against Tyler and Katie.
It looks like a lot of things piled on over the top. The blue looks like a weird kind of green, but just hard to read. It's a little bit messy to my eye.
Tyler.
As far as the artistry goes, it's just very boring to me. The way the heart interacts with the clock, very minimal. With something with this much saturation of color and this much contrast, to still be this flat is almost a feat in itself. The recurring theme with your tattoos is always the same. Technical application is always great. Everything else becomes very, very flat. There hasn't been anything that's been like, oh, he's a great artist. At this point, it is you can outdraw who, and that's what it comes down to.
Katie. There are some really nice little details. The gears are really nice. The hands are really nice. The morphing part, I was hoping to see more of where we're seeing the texture of one item transitioning into the other item, but it is readable.
It does look like a mechanical part, but you did something chaotic with it that is exciting to look at. You took a big risk with the design, which I think the other artists didn't do with their designs. You deconstructed the clock and you combined it with the heart in a really cool way.
Thank you.
We have to debate a win here between Eric, Tyler, and Katie. I have to go with the one that I think is the most interesting.
Rowan Katie
Katie's by far the most dynamic.
Katie. Winner of the head-to-head challenge is Katie. Congratulations.
Challenge.
Now you're looking at over 500,000 Westcott push pins. You and your teammate must place each push pin into a 6 foot by 4 foot corkboard, one by one. I use my hands for a living. This is absurd.
This is going to be a tough day.
Whoa. There's a new model. This is crazy.
Oh, damn.
Today's gonna be fine.
The guys are going to be more nervous than we are.
Welcome to your initiation. Initiation? I don't even know what that is. This is your first flash challenge, designed to test your fundamentals.
My stomach is going flips right now.
It's divided into 3 different rounds. Complete 1 round and you'll move on to the next.
3 rounds? Crazy.
You have 4 hours to complete all 3 rounds. Get stuck and your first challenge in this competition will be a fail. This is round 1. You must create a full body sketch of this model.
I've never done a life drawing before. This is the worst challenge I've ever been faced with in my life.
Once you're satisfied that your drawing is a true representation of your artistic skill, then you can move on to the next round. And your time starts now.
This is the toughest first weekend in Master History. We're expecting these artists to be able to draw, to execute, and really stand up and show us what they can do.
No time's gonna be a factor. I'm gonna make sure I'm not stuck in the back of the pack, and whoever's in the front, I want to be hot on their heels.
Homegirl, pretty fast. I hope she got enough.
Hardpoint lock.
You have to assemble tattoo machine from Seth.
Hardpoint identified. Hardpoint is ours.
I've been building tattoo machines for 14 years. I'm screwed in the second round.
You use the drawing that you did, coupled with the machine that you just. My tattooing, how good it is.
Way too much time drawing. Sport you can make. They all have the same fun.
4, 3.
To me, I failed. This is not a good way to start this competition.
What you did get done is much better than what I would have imagined was coming. Face is a
That you have in your drawing, I think it's a great job.
Since one tattoo, I was having some trouble. The tattoo itself, man, it looked body language. I was nervous. This tattoo
Chris, how did you find this challenge today?
I thought don't worry about it, don't bother.
Oh, you didn't bother.
You're representing yourself, and this is what the whole world's gonna see.
That's the first.
Yeah. This guy think he is putting a life on hold. This guy is treating it. I think you're drawing to this wrong. Those beautiful lines that you have on paper don't show. It was not hitting. I don't think you're making but we don't have a tattoo to look at, so we look at your drawings, unfortunately, and see the rest of the body. With that being said, it's really hard to know that the ink master can't build.
So Picasso, what happened? I totally spaced out on the building machine.
There's no doubt that I want to see it. It's got a real style, but also you captured the model amazingly. But technician.
It's Chris.
Finish. You see the quality. You see the
competition is more intense than ever. This week, a veteran returns to fight you. One artist will win $1,000 in each magazine. This week, you're going to judge on contrast. For today's flash challenge, you must sift through items to build a sculpture. That a beam of light will be projected onto your sculpture from dark, clear, recognizable image in the shadow. Looking like garbage, the sculpture must look like something else entirely.
What? So basically, I'm taking garbage and creating shadow puppets, right? Yeah.
And for the first time in this competition, you must work in. You have 3 hours, and your time begins now.
Today, these artists are going to have to work in teams. Just jump into it. Start getting our materials and see what we can do. If you take a beam of light and you put something in front of it, the depth of where the object in front of the light is will cast a darker or lighter shadow. If they play with their depth, now. Work in teams. Just jump into it. Start getting our materials and see what we can do. If you take a beam of light and you put something in front of it, the depth of where the object in front of the light is will cast a darker or lighter shadow. If they play with their depth of field today, they'll get different contrasting shadows.
What we can do to make this skyline, we can set up boxes going up.
Alex came up with the idea of doing a skyline. That's stupid. My idea is completely different from this. A really dope, like huge tree. We can cut out a lot of the plastic to make the leaves. It's gonna be better though with the contrast.
You sure?
My ideas are clearly the ones we're using today. This is better with the layering. There's no question. I'm gonna take charge. This is my team.
Are we doing this?
This is what I want to do.
We need to find one piece that inspires us.
I'm starting to feel like I'm the gopher digging for random trash so that Mark can hold it in front of the light and see if God strikes him with a brilliant idea.
Do you mind being the cutter so I could tape on it?
Sure. That's pretty good.
That's beautiful.
We got this.
Picasso and Chris are hanging themselves right now. They have
Aba siya ay kalabing.
Nice. We're doing a werewolf, which is a very identifiable image. Yes, sir. The bold silhouette is going to show contrast.
Pretty good. Sure. Garbage pail and shears. Megan definitely hooked me up putting me with Anthony. There were a lot worse choices out there.
Baby figures in the air.
That was a smart move. Because if you cross me, I'll rip you to shreds.
Final hour remaining. Final hour, guys.
Panicking here. This is way harder than I thought. I need to get that edge of the wave a little sharper. We're creating shadows on the water with rocks, and I just can't get that wave sharp enough. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is it. Time is up.
I think it looks absolutely beautiful.
You pulled it out. That was tough.
It's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good.
Chris and Picasso's piece is absolutely bizarre. It's completely out of focus, and nobody has any idea what it is. That's just
Look, si mga ibon din. Siya maligning. Buwan talaga.
We already had the circular shape. We picked that as a full moon, so we decided to go with the werewolf theme.
I like that you have a range of using where the light actually hits the objects to create something heavier and darker and create the contrast that way.
I do love the different techniques you use. Some clear plastic, some stuff closer to the lens to get it out of focus. I think there's a lot of little intricate details in here that played out pretty smart.
Megan Jean at St. Mark did the lights. You guys did a graveyard scene with these real gnarled trees. I really like that. Very easy to tell what they are.
I like the way that you guys composed it. I like that the depth of field with the light.
I
believe that I can look back into this and see other stuff going on. I think the contrast really worked out to your advantage, and I think you did a great job.
Alex and Ashley hit that light. What I really am impressed with is what you've done with the leaves in terms of having different types of leaves with the clear garbage, and then actually going in and drawing the veins in the leaves to create different textures within the foliage up there. You also did a really nice touch using that clear plastic to create the smoke on the cigarette there. Overall, pretty outstanding job. Chris and Picasso, let's check it out.
We tried to go for an underwater scene. Color is a lot harder than it looks.
It's just a little bit of red, a little bit of green, out of focus. There's not a lot of real crisp, direct imagery in it. So from a distance, it just comes off as unfinished.
Everyone else seems to copy each other's approach. Me and Picasso, we just use the colors, the shapes. It's disappointing. Me and Picasso, we don't are.
Today, some of you made inventive choices that showed crisp contrast. The judges have decided the winners of today's Flash Challenge are Ashley and Alex.
You were able to use the entire canvas, and you did something a little different than everybody else, and that gets rewarded.
Thank you so much.
I'm a bossy bitch when it comes to working in a group, but that's because I'm never wrong. I have control, I have skull pick, I'm so excited.
For today's Flash Challenge, you must use creativity to make an extraordinary work of art using a common everyday item. Salt.
Salt. I don't know what he's talking about.
Salt? What are you, nuts? What are we, hanging out at a diner? Gonna play with some salt on the table?
The more limited your resources are, the more creative to make something incredible. First, you must stencil your design onto a 4-foot by 8-foot adhesive board. Then, carefully apply various grains of salt to create your masterpiece. Today, you will have help, but you'll also have to compromise, because once again, you must work in teams of 2.
There's no way I'm gonna give somebody an advantage by putting 2 guys that know what they're doing on a team, except for myself. I can win every challenge from here on out.
Artists, one by one, please read the number on the bottom of your skull to determine your teams.
1,
4. 4.
I picked Picasso because I've seen his artistic ability. This Edward Scissorhands looking mother is like super creative.
2. St. Mark, he's a prick. Clean.
of a bitch.
3.
3. I'm stoked to be working with Megan. She's part of my alliance. She's super creative. Clean made a big mistake.
Number 1.
One artist, one good one, she can bring him down. Those are the teams. The winners of the Flash Challenge will have the power to assign all human canvases in the elimination tattoo as a team. You have 4 hours to show creativity using only salt. Your time begins now.
You can run through ideas with you.
We gotta figure out how subjects matter. Today's challenge is out of the box. It's something that I can almost promise that none of these artists have ever done before, and that's the whole point that we're testing them on.
We did like a badass skull. The eyes would be super white.
Just to see what they'll come up with in a completely unfamiliar environment.
Our shadows themselves are really cool, and if we do the silhouette of like a sexy woman, we can make like really
If somebody's not a good artist overall, this is going to be a tough day.
Megan Jean is making a silhouette of herself.
So you tell me what you think.
I pictured the skyline.
But everybody else is going to do the skyline. It's what's right in front of us. That's not creative. How do you think that would work with creativity? I won the last Flash Challenge. I need to get Anthony to agree with me. Something bigger to work with would be better. The first thing that came to my head was a dual flank skull with a huge headdress.
Okay, I just need to come up with a drawing.
2 hours to go, everybody. 2 hours.
I'm so sorry. Oh
跟皮奶人对坐还是说？
That does look good. That's dope. All you really need is some lines.
That's it. Scrape off some lines.
We need a couple of finger waves just like those. I think you're underestimating the time it's going to take to solve. Sure? Yeah. Say Mark is starting to piss me off. Hey man, it's a team challenge, right?
I got this for a minute. Go sit down.
Mark show all day. Is it?
Not a surprise.
I hate koi fish. It's a played out design, dude.
1 hour remaining. Final hour.
We're doing a skull with a candle on the top, with a moth being attracted to it. I think it's pretty creative. Don't get too crazy. You don't want it white on that wing. The only problem is, once you put the salt on, you can't get it off.
Let's give it a good cleaning.
This guy's just throwing salt like it's a set of French fries.
Remember, you want contrast. You want nothing lighter than the flame.
There's salt everywhere. This is the worst challenge of my Inkmaster career.
Ui, giá làng à, cấm nạ cái này cũng đỡ.
4. One more time. 3, 2, 1.
Đến mấy.
Time is up.
I think it looks great.
I'm really proud of it. His art. I wish we did something a little different.
Alex is checked out. I think he could be tossing this challenge in the trash just to put Mark in a really bad position.
Artists, it is now time to critique your work. Alex, in St. Mark, whose concept was it?
That was mine.
Alex, what specifically did you work on here?
I cut out the waves and I cut all the waves out. What are you talking about? He was having some problems with the heat.
By all means, tell him what I did. I thought it was a stupid design. You seem a little hostile, Alex.
When I would start doing something, he'd be like, no, don't do that. I had to redraw the way. I didn't hang out.
The anatomy of the koi, the spine starting at the head really throws a dent into the flow and the shape of the actual koi itself and makes it really short and fat. The realistic eye is also a big mishit.
You do that, buddy. Don't touch me, you douchebag.
Megan Jean and Christian. I'm really super impressed with the figure there and how you were able to get the flowing garment so beautifully enhanced like that.
You use the shadow, it gives it a different style of art look. It doesn't look like a painting. The contrast is amazing. This thing stands out.
Really clean, very straightforward. Creativity really shows in this challenge.
Anthony and Ashley.
If you would have maybe positioned the moon behind the feathers up top, it would have made it look a lot stronger.
Picasso and Clean.
You have a skull silhouette. That's pretty much it.
We tried to go for different textures, 3 different elements, light.
It doesn't seem very creative. It's really lackluster on this challenge.
If you don't like it, you don't like it. You just weren't feeling it. I thought we were feeling it.
Cleaning Picasso's piece is awful. It looks like a moth taking a on a skull. Ours is gonna win.
The judges have decided that the winners of the Flash Challenge are Megan Jean and Christian.
Definitely the creativity is what's up most. You chose an artistic approach, and even from a distance, it does look like a finished art piece, which is nice for this challenge.
I feel
splash challenges, I'm doing great.
Today, you must do something so unique that in this courtroom, it can be the difference between a conviction and an acquittal. A fingerprint.
Fingerprints are comprised of so many little concentric lines and tiny little details. Putting that many lines close together can be incredibly difficult without screwing up.
But that is not all. For this flash challenge, the judges aren't the only ones inspecting your work. Today, we are joined by a forensics expert. Detective Adrian Gardner is a and she's here to determine if your tattoo can stand up as evidence in a court of law. This is crazy. You have each been randomly assigned a canvas. Each of your canvases has brought in a loved one whose fingerprint they want tattooed. Detective Gardner will fingerprint each. Then you must tattoo an exact replica of that print onto your canvas. If you don't pay attention to detail, your canvas will end up with someone else's print.
Over here, but have his shoulder cut off. It's really important for me to get back on the horse. The judges think I don't have any technical ability. They're mistaken. I'm gonna get this as perfect as I can and show them I'm not just an artist, I'm a tattoo artist. I'm doing this hard because I just can't get the detail that everybody else does, but I can point some creativity and my canvas is gonna walk out with the coolest tattoo in the room. Shaped like a heart.
This challenge is extremely difficult. Most of my tattoos, there's room for artistic interpretation. It's easy to hide little mistakes. But in this challenge, there's no room for error. If I mess up, I can't hide it. And I'm gonna go around and like thicken up some lines so it really looks just like the print. This challenge is extremely difficult. Most of my tattoos, there's room for artistic interpretation. It's easy to hide little mistakes. But in this challenge, there's no room for error. If I mess up, I can't hide it. And I'm gonna go around and like thicken up some lines so it really looks just like the print.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it. Time's up. Machine's down. No more ink.
That looks exactly like it.
It's got his scar in there and everything.
Right?
Yeah.
Good deal, thank you.
Christian's trying to camouflage his crappy line work with a bunch of extra garbage around it. Why are you doing that on a detail challenge?
All right, guys. Time to critique your work. Alex.
The lines are very crisp, very clean, very smooth. It's a pleasing tattoo to look at.
Detective Gardner, after your analysis, what have we got?
This print does have a lot of detail that is in agreement, but there is a bifurcation here. If you were to follow the ridge down, it meets what we call the delta. On this print, it's actually supposed to be inside. Because he did this, all the points are shifted by one ridge. We would call it an exclusion.
St. Mark, how does it feel to have your
Keith,
immortally placed on your son forever?
I feel very honored.
Looking at it very close, the detail seems very exact. This is probably about the exact size I guessed it would need to be.
Detective Gardner, in terms of detail, would this be 100% match?
There is enough detail in agreement to make an identification. I would call it a match.
Obviously, you went with a Sacred Heart design.
I knew that I didn't have the level of accuracy that some of the other prints had, so I started thinking, you know what, I'm going to give Mike a badass tattoo.
Just looking at the known print, you can see this one is a little bit more challenging.
As people age, the ridges lose elasticity. That was the case here. Doing a side-by-side comparison, there's not enough details. I wouldn't say this isn't hers, but I wouldn't say it's a match.
Inconclusive.
Inconclusive.
Sausage.
It didn't have any discrepancies. It's definitely a match.
You did this thing meticulously. You really hit the details spot on, and it was a nice, clean, good, professional job.
There's a lot of very small details. There's actually the texture of the waves that gives it a real authentic fingerprint look.
Detective Gardner, your analysis concluded?
This print was definitely a match. He got all the points dead on.
Anthony.
Every ridge was right on point. This print was definitely a match.
It looks very crisp, especially for the smaller size you went with. It seems like you had a little time to spare, so you went ahead and gave this man a present. Aside from the fingerprint, great craftsmanship, and a real keen eye.
As much as I want to talk bad about Anthony, I freaking can't. He makes me nervous in this competition because he has not been tattooing very long, and he is swinging for the fences. This kid has come to play.
Megan G.
All the points
Sulele lo mia.
were 100% in sequence with each other. No discrepancies at all.
Just using clean lines instead of showing the textures. Smart move. It makes for an interesting art piece, and the legibility on this is great.
Picasso.
It is a lot of line work, very close together, that down the road would be more likely for some of the lines to start to butt together and to darken up.
There was a little bit of a discrepancy. There's a big void here, but in the known print, there's actually a little island. Also, here we have a ridge that was supposed to continue to go, and he ended it.
Damn it, I'm disappointed. I really want to be on top this time. If this next challenge doesn't play to my string, I could be.
The judges have decided the winner of the Flash Challenge is Clean Rock 1.
The way you showed the texture in the finger, but still have the legibility and breathability gives you the nod.
Contortionists combine art and science by bending their bodies into creative and sometimes shocking shapes. Today, you must once again work in teams of 2. Each team will be randomly assigned a pair of contortionists. Pose your canvases and then use body paint to transform them into something else completely. This week, you are being judged on color theory.
Maybe like an alligator head. That's like a swamp.
Every idea falling out of Alex's mouth right now is absolute horror.
We should try to do like a macaw.
I have no idea what that bird looks like.
Oh, it's fine. I got it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
I have to take the lead in this challenge because Alex doesn't have anything to bring.
This is the one. This is the one. If we get that skull pick, we'll totally take over.
I've got 99 problems and they're all Alex.
I'm gonna take like some bodies. Yeah, your head's here. I started to get some sort of like a clown face. The clown idea.
Coney Island. A laughing clown seems perfect subject matter.
We're gonna have our contortionist actually twerk, so it's gonna make the clown laugh. This is gonna be awesome.
I think like, or thinking like, just
Positions again.
G
There is no rainbow scorpion. It's rainbow color. It doesn't have the right amount of
light. Mouth coming around, cradling that, then you have the actual hair that plays off the red and the white. So as far as your color theory goes, the palette's very nice. Very simple pose, very creative idea to come up with to make a clown.
Alex and Maddie.
Bambule song.
The details will be for it to really be a strong image. The overall, just the final. It's
theory, man. The whole rainbow for somebody. Anybody
See you guys went with a scorpion.
Temperatures to show that the animal is dangerous, and then we put some colors into the legs, making all of the extremities read to
Creativity on this is contorting them in this position before letting go the scorpion, the tail flip up together with red and red. Showers for a strong rock.
Anthony and Chris. The majority of your detail and imagery is on the flat. It's the most creative use of the key figure.
You said she was really comfortable with sports, you just decided to go.
What you've done, I don't really think it's anything to one model. You also didn't do anything to really play one color off the other.
All Christian and Anthony did was just paint this dude's back and told him to lay down. How creative is that? Me and Mark.
Pourquoi nous avons lancé pas cette ceinture?
Today, you had to use color theory to trace what it is using something else completely.
Now creating that dynamic shape was just that extra step.
For today's flag challenge, working in teams of two, you must use wash. 53
blow it out. And if you don't get it in there, people are not going to stay.
This is
There's a lot of
Gene down, no more.
into my office.
Take the power team. Straight up. Read it. Maybe not. Maybe really bold. Some of the lines are a little more salted than others.
He's singling me out. It's put a seed of doubt in my head.
The judges.
Letters. You match the L's, you match the I's, and you match the E's in that hand style. And I think you did a really good job.
We've cleaned one again. This is bull. For this last challenge, you must create a massive but legible design using a very tiny medium. Push pins. You're looking. You and your teammate must place each push pin one by one. I usually have to live looking for thousands of push pins into a board to make each part. This is absurd. The pins must blend together to create a large-scale work of art.
It's going to take so many push pins to make something legible from across the room. This is going to be a tough day.
You have to show agility. Your time starts.
This competition is the gauntlet, mentally and physically. These guys are all feeling pressure. You don't get much coverage out of one push pin, so multiple amount of push pins need to be in one place to achieve legible areas of what the design is composed.
Everything I was trying to think of was a diversity, so to do some
I don't really like doing a big giant eagle. I don't like eagle. I knew it was going to happen. Megan Jean is being genius. If you did, just stay pros, you know, it's traditional. You're wasting time, you're wasting energy, you're wasting creative energy.
I've seen other traditional horses that I think are.
You have to get simplicity that fosters what to do.
I know, I'm just doing traditional horses. I'm really getting exhausted from having to work with animals with such huge egos. I've won more flash challenges than anybody here, and yet here I am just being written off.
3 hours to go. The reason my dad wanted
This is going to get us a little more wood in your fingers. It's just smoother than we do some of the rounds or spins. Details of
really even have to use this fork or this is skin tone because to put push pins in this huge canvas one at a time is going to take forever.
No claws? Yeah, the claws are underwater. They're under here. Why is he eating his own body? Yeah, the girl's cross-eyed. You think?
What the hell is sausage doing? That's the worst looking dragon I've ever seen.
So you're turning a corkboard into a lunchbox.
This looks like a 5-year-old kid had a bunch of fun with some thumbtacks.
Fellow in this area going that way. This challenge is way more difficult than we first thought. There's so many freaking push.
You guys, are you? Nice. I do. She really starts. Sorry. In hindsight,
at all times. Needs to be on top. The judges have decided to express facts, duty, and their most profound beliefs. Your canvas make a bold statement. Forehead. Did that too. Really? Walk out with the head down. You must use ingenuity to design the guys, you have
Bro. Bro.
crazy with like being like
clean tattoo and smooth lines with this. I'm sure you're gonna hate it. Well, design itty bitty dot work and blaze patterns and beads. Everything takes time. I'm feeling it wet. She's got the hair pull up. I can't believe Christian shaved this girl's head. It's nice on my favorite part of the whole thing, appealing to our senses. It's tough, it's bold. I really went back to the light gray on the top of the it's tattoo. I'm not it's not really true and utter version out of it. Why did you Anthony did what? Two different tattoos. In the center, very symmetrical.
I was over the top.
Totally you on that. Basically, we worked an existing tattoo, correct? There's about 8 different tattoos. Tattoo.
The winner of the
We have be freeze dry.
This mannequin collection in the world. My entire my mannequins. Mannequins don't talk back. They have no attitude except for others.
Alam dapat kanya, wala mo.
With pulled them from dumpsters, ordered them off the internet, and taken them from stores. Chad Michael's
Yan na
favorite mannequin consists of abstract,
custom, and sculpted figures. But he believes his collection is much more than just objects. Each has its own name.
Hi, Marilyn. Hello, Liz. Margot, how are you? Susie,
S.M.J.
Samantha, hi.
And unique personality.
So sweet. This guy has this incredibly odd screamer face. I mean, he's an agate. This is Lauren. She's a sad, depressed kind of girl.
Happy or sad? Or lying. They totally fill his 2,400 square foot apartment.
This used to be our television. And we used to have a couch right here. And beautiful chair and table and lamp there. The television was right there. And the coffee table was right here. And a bunch of mannequins.
They are in every room and hallway, from the kitchen to the bedroom.
I'm constantly moving them around to find more space. So if I had more space for them, I could actually have more time in collecting and researching.
And with every room completely filled, Chad Michael carefully stores over 100 more mannequins underground.
This is where people ask me, doesn't this fit well? People are more picky than mannequins.
These basement-bound vintage mannequins are all over 40 years old. Chad Michael has spent hours individually shrink wrapping and preparing them so they are properly preserved.
I wrap them in this plastic so that I can keep them real tight next to each other. These masks are designed to keep the eyelashes safe and the faces safe from damage. It's really just to keep them preserved down here.
Il a vraiment solente la tegile. Il a pas solente opal.
He's now seen the film over 100 times.
Kunduz opal nje. Laba maba-abhendini izindlu masuseje nje ukuthi
Sits on my back. A big carrot, right?
Love.
About rearranging my collection. I'll buy all 5 or 6 of them. I don't want anybody else to have that cute diamond. Paper towel holder. It's kind of like
Zizi essence. When her mother passed away, she made a special place for her ashes. 4 years later, she was finally able to afford the $4,000, 6-foot-tall, custom-built fiberglass carrot that now serves as her mother's final resting place. Zizi has it written into her will that when she dies, her ashes will be placed next to her mother's.
I know she's in a very good place because I keep her near and dear to me. She's in here in my favorite carrot furniture.
But carrots are more than just a collection to Zizi. She also eats and drinks 3 carrot-based meals every day on carrot plates with carrot forks and knives.
And every morning I have my carrot tea, my carrot teapot, and my carrot mug.
Zizi's annual carrot consumption is more than 350 pounds, while an average person eats only 14 pounds each year. In the past, this massive carrot intake has resulted in an unusual side effect.
There was a point in my life where I was eating so many carrots that my skin was turning orange. And I just realized that I was actually turning into a carrot myself.
Zizi's obsession started over 40 years ago in her family's vegetable garden.
I was about 4 years old, and I've never seen a carrot growing in the ground, and it amazed me. It was love at first sight. So I was carrot girl in junior high, and then in high school I became a punker, so I became carrot woman. And I guess carrot woman stuck.
As ZZ grew, so did her carrot obsession. And 14 years ago, the carrot lady gave birth to the most improbable of children.
Yeah, I guess.
Her very own Carrot Top.
I don't have any redheads in my family.
How many do you get?
The usual. Too many.
With only 2% of the world's population being redheads, against all odds, ZZ had a surprise in store for her.
When my son was born, I thought, you know, of course I would have a redhead carrot top son. I'm the carrot lady.
I don't love carrots as much as my mom. I don't think anybody does.
In Redondo Beach, California, on a quiet suburban street, lives 45-year-old Anthony Toth. To his neighbors, Anthony appears like a regular guy, but none of them know about the secret passion that he keeps behind closed doors.
What's behind this door is perhaps the most significant thing in my collection. To the people that live on the same street as me, this is a garage. But to me, it's the Pan Am 747.
Although Pan Am ceased operations back in 1991, Anthony has been on a mission to recreate the Pan Am flying experience in the comfort of his own home. He has built an exact replica of the first-class cabin in his 625-square-foot garage.
What I really desire is to be a part of what actually was the Pan Am cabin of the 1970s and 80s. In this overhead bin, I keep a lot of cabin supplies like socks, eye shades, and extra headsets. This is an original seatbelt sign and no smoking sign. I knew when I saw them I wanted to add them to my cabin.
Not only does Anthony's aircraft have working seatbelt signs, but he has gone to great lengths to be prepared for any in-flight emergency. But Anthony's biggest challenge was searching the world for 18 matching first-class seats. And even though they are 30 years old, they are in perfect working condition.
They actually have the Pan Am logo still on the seat belts, but by today's standards, no one would actually want a first-class seat like this. They were manual footrests that you had to pull out.
Anthony spends as much time as possible in his first-class cabin. He even dines here every single evening and only uses Pan Am plates and trays.
These are the Pan Am containers. Anytime I see any of this stuff, I just pick it up. And I just like to have enormous quantities of all of it. Most of these pieces don't exist anymore. They were made some 40 years ago. And I've restored nearly everything in here to its original look and feel.
But Anthony's obsession doesn't stop with collecting. Whatever he's unable to find with a Pan Am logo, he gets custom made.
I actually have these bags made. I can fill the package with fresh nuts, seal it, and then recreate the ability to open that package in my cabin and have a beverage service right in here, just like it would have been back in the 70s.
But Anthony's most prized piece in his aircraft is the winding staircase that in the early 747s led to a first-class lounge.
You can't have a Pan Am 747 in your house without a winding staircase.
His goal is to have it lead to his bedroom.
Unfortunately, I'm not actually able to cut the hole in my house, but I already started collecting the pieces that will comprise my upper deck.
To make the illusion of flight complete, Anthony has installed an audio system where actual sounds of a 747 before takeoff are continuously played.
When passengers walk on board the airplane, the sound they hear would be exactly what they would hear when they're on a 747. By this time in my life, I probably should have a much bigger home and a smaller mortgage, but I spend a considerable amount of my free income on collecting. I started collecting when I was 5 years old. I remember the actual moment when it happened. I was on my very first 747, and I wanted to take the in-flight magazine and the plastic cup. I would get really excited to see the actual tray and dishware that was put in front of me, the way it looked, the cabin walls, the cabin decor. I didn't want to miss any aspect of the flight from start to finish. I would literally run up to the very front of it and start photographing every inch of the cabin all the way to the tail. It really resonated with me as a child. And by the time I was in my late 20s, I had amassed enough pieces to actually create the shell of an aircraft. I would actually just live inside the aircraft. Every single house I've lived in has had some airline cabin in it. And the older I got, the bigger the cabin got.
Anthony even sleeps in his cabin.
Looking out that hill. I would prefer this world to the real world any day.
Meet Candace Brazil and Steve Lubansky. This Pasadena, California couple is so smitten with bunnies. They've amassed a collection of rabbit-related items numbering 29,000 and their collection is so vast, it's held the Guinness World Record 8 years in a row.
We get up and we do our teeth and our hair, but I mean, and then I cook all in my plate. If you find it in Bunny, then I get it. Up this way. This is our Warren. Warren is where bunnies burrow underground.
This was just the living room, and it was just a sofa and a couple of chairs. And it's been like 17 years since I was here.
I know.
Their bunny collection overflows outside. The more than 40 figurines. A bunny graveyard.
Born and broken dreams. We plan to grow again.
Each bunny ends its life with different.
Honey bunny right here.
Most people keep their pet rabbits in a hutch outside their home. But Candace and Steve have given 5 live bunnies an entire room all for themselves.
And I understand that. I don't have
Over the years, but have died. But
so aware of bunnies.
It is a comforting building. We didn't
the rest.
We have don't freak on the ground and know that the bunny is passed. Otherwise, they'll keep looking for their friend. Then I back. There's Honey Girl. Bunny cake. That's all that's in our freezer.
Some of the deceased bunnies have been in the freezer for nearly 10 years. The day Voice told Barry Levinson to begin collecting mustard was the day forever. 26 years later, he's the owner of the world's largest mustard collection. Mhm. Eu vou falar assim, sim. I just did it. I quit my job as lawyer to receive this. There's a lot of very active.